Okay, so in honor of Zach's first birthday, I wanted to do his birth video because I still have not done that. He was due April 7th of 2018, and there was just no sign of him coming that day. Um, and so then Tuesday, April 10th, I was scheduled for my induction. I was doing it at 5 a.m. and around 2 a.m. I started contracting, um, having regular contractions. They were lasting anywhere between 45 seconds to a minute and a half, and they were coming every 2 to 5 minutes. Um, so I was definitely starting to go into like little snippets in between them, but that's about it. Um, so we got to the hospital around 5. After paperwork got finished and everything, we finally got in the room around 6. And then they started everything around 7. They waited for a shift change. So around 7, I got my Foley bob. I was still at 1 centimeter, and I don't remember how much effaced I was, but I got the Foley bob around 7, and then 7, actually probably around 7:30, 8 o'clock. By the time I got the Foley bob in, and then around 9:30, it finally fell out. I had been having contractions the whole thing. It was so uncomfortable. I just wanted to lean. She had me stand up. They had me stand up while I had the Foley bulb in, and to help with some of the heart monitoring. But every time I got a contraction, I just needed to lean over. But she told me that leaning over did not get an accurate reading on his heart. So once the contraction was done, I needed to stand back up. Well, finally, they were able to get a chair in there for me, one of the lounge chairs, and I just lounged in there until they finally got the full bulb finally found out, like I said, around 9:30, about an hour and a half after it was put in. And then within the half an hour, my doctor, before she went over to her clinic hours, because she had clinic hours that day, she wasn't on call, came in and checked me. I was around 4.5, 5 centimeters. And so they were like, okay, we could start Pitocin now. But Zach's heart rate was not staying accurate. It wasn't reading accurate enough for them to start the Pitocin. And so they needed to get that accurate. So she tried me on my side with oxygen, but being on my side, they couldn't keep track of my contractions. I don't know, I don't know. She said, being on my side, I wasn't able to have my contractions monitored. And it wasn't helping anyway. So they decided to break my water and put internal monitors in me. Well, they broke my water, and marconium, or whatever that word is, poop, their first poop, came out. So he had pooped in the womb, which ironically I did that when I was born. I actually swallowed it though. He did not, thankfully. But I had swallowed mine. So whatever. Apparently it's very common for it to happen. More common than people let on about or talk about or whatever. But it's not common for them to swallow it. But if they do it in the womb, they always have to have a team on standby just in case. But so it showed that he had pooped in the womb. Whatever. They got the internal monitors in me, and immediately they got the anesthesiologist in there to do my epidural, so that way I wasn't going too long without an epidural after my water broke, because I've heard that once your water breaks, you definitely won't, the pain is worse, and I know I can't do it. Kudos to all the women who can. I have a few friends who did it, natural, no epidural, whatever. Kudos to them. I can't. So I went ahead and got the epidural. Everything was going smooth. The internal monitors were working great. The epidural worked really good. They started Pitocin because his heart rate had been accurate for 30 minutes while they did the epidural. I was on the Pitocin for about 10 minutes when the internal monitors decided they weren't going to work anymore. Like, they were working but not reading accurate again. His heart rate wasn't reading accurate again. So they had to stop Pitocin. So they tried me on my other side with oxygen and still didn't work. So they flipped me to my other side with oxygen and that still didn't work. Another nurse ended up coming in, was like mentioning trying to get me on all fours, and my nurse was like, well, she just got her epidural, she can't go on all fours. Like, well, we'll get her there. So both of those nurses got me flipped to all fours. And by that time happened, my parents had come in. Charlie was on her way up. She was going to help film a little bit of my labor for my vlog, which didn't happen, obviously. The resident that was there came in to say that Arnold, who was the doctor on call, was talking to my doctor about what to do because of his heart rate not being accurate or whatever, reading accurate enough. They said that they recommend me going in and having a C-section because that way it's, I'm not put under, it's not an emergency, like, there's nothing wrong right now, but if we kept trying, which we can, but if we keep trying, I very well could end up in an emergency C-section, which I'd have to be put under for. Brandon couldn't be in the room and all of that. And so we just decided to opt for the unplanned voluntary C-section. That way Brandon could be in the room. I didn't have to be put under because we didn't want him to go into distress. And I just wanted him safe. So we decided to do the C-section. My doctor was stuck in the office with, I guess, a woman was bleeding. So they wheeled me down to the OR. I was still on all fours, so my nurse had to jump onto my bed to hold me to make sure I didn't fall because I'm numb. And they're like, how are we going to get her on the bed? So, like, they had to, like, roll me from all fours onto my back onto the little, not bed, but the little table, which is, super small. Like, barely my back fits on it, And then they start getting everything prepped for, my C-section. Getting me numb all the way up to, like, right here. And then, like, so after that, he, like, pokes, asking me if I could feel anything. And I didn't feel anything till, like, right here. So there was that. Thankfully, I did get a little nauseous at the end, and I was really shaky. But I didn't get sick. So that's good because I've heard a lot of times that, women get sick no matter what in labor. So I was thankful for that. And so they had to wheel me back first to get me prepped before they could bring Brandon back. Brandon obviously did not hear that it was a C-section. And after, the whole me almost dying with the miscarriage, he was a little freaked out when he comes into a room and I'm, like, laying on a table and they're getting ready to cut me open. He's a little freaked out about it. He was worried. But they assured him that it's just a C-section. We're just getting the baby out. He had just thought they were taking me to the room to deliver. He had no idea what was going on. He was asleep most of the time until things started going on. Things started happening. So anyway, I don't even know, like, what, the things happened so fast. Like I told you, I got the fluid bulb out around 9:30, and that's what I was told. I was at 5 centimeters. And by 11:17, Zack was born in the morning. So, like, I wasn't even at the hospital for more than 6 hours before he was born. I had only been contracting since 2 a.m., so technically I was only really in labor for 9 hours. And when I say that was active labor at 2 a.m. So, like I said, everything happened so quick. But he was here at 11:17 a.m., April 10th, 2018. He weighed 9 pounds, 3 ounces. And 4 ounces, they weighed him twice, and it was 3 ounces, 4 ounces, whatever. The hospital said he was 22 inches long, but he was 21 and a half, because I was told that the hospital kind of, like, does it really fast just to get a measurement. He was 21 and a half inches when we took him to the doctor after he got out of the hospital. And then a few days later, when we went to go get him circumcised, he was 21 and a half inches. So the hospital just a little off. so that's not bad. But besides the reason why he had to go to the NICU, which I'll explain here in a sec, he was doing good. We had Charlie came up and held on. My parents held on, whatever. But he kept like shaking his hands. We didn't know if it was maybe he was cold or what, and so I asked Charlie about it, because she's had 2 kids, and she said that it could be that he's cold, or it just could be low blood pressure, or low blood sugar. So when the nurse came in, we mentioned it to them, and they're like, okay, well, we could take his blood sugar, no problem. Well, it was low. It was like a 31, which we later found out why he was in the NICU, that if it's below 50, it's alarming because they can start brain cells. Can't talk. But so what they did was they gave him a sugar gel, dextrose, I think it was called. They gave him some sugar gel and then had me breastfeed. And then an hour later came back to check his reading. And it actually went down to like in the 20s, like 25 or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but it went down. And so they gave him some more dextrose and formula, which he drank almost and they said that they came back in an hour. They came back in an hour and it only went up to 29. So what they decided to do was do the dextrose again, have Brandon feed him some formula, and then have me breastfeed also, and just do some skin to skin and stuff. But he barely even took the formula from Brandon, because like if he's only a few hours old, his stomach wasn't that big. He wasn't hungry that fast. And so they just went ahead and admitted him to the NICU that night. I was still coming off my anesthesia and had my catheter, so I wasn't allowed to get up until the next day. So Brandon took him up there, whatever, and I was upset because, I didn't have my baby with me the first night, and I didn't get to see him or whatever. And finally, that morning I was able to get my catheter taken out, and they told me I could get up and walk and go up and see him. So I went up and saw him, and they said that when they admitted him with Brandon, when Brandon took him up there to admit him, they said that they hopefully won't have to keep him for more than 72 hours, meaning that I could take him home. Because at the C-section, I could stay up to 4 days. I went up and saw him. He was still doing, it was still low. They were having to keep a sugar IV on him, sugar drip on him and stuff, all of that. And we got a camera set up so it was, able to be on him most of the time, unless when they had to do vitals and stuff, they move it away. But, so it was on him most of the time, and we could check on him from our phones. Go up every once in a while and check, and I would try to pump it to mix with his formula, whatever. But in the long run, I don't know if I mentioned it before, in the long run, I wasn't able to really pump much. It was taking me four 20-minute sessions to get 2 ounces out of both, total. So I just kind of gave up on breastfeeding. It just wasn't, my milk wasn't coming in, and it's what it is. I'm fed his best, and even though it was more expensive, hey, he was fed, he got his formula. Anyway, I went up there about 3 times a day. I went up in the morning, and then the afternoon, and then right before bed to see him, and the next morning, I was cleared to go, but because he was still there, they said that they would keep me until Saturday, which was my 4th day, just to see if he'd get out of the hospital. Well, every day we went up to check on him and stuff, and it's just what they said that it needed to be above 60, or 70. He needed to be 70 or above. He needed to be above 70, and they'd bump a milliliter down on his dextrose, or his sugar drip, which he kept blowing IVs really fast. Every time I would look, he'd have it in a different spot in his foot. So eventually they put it in his head, and it was still blowing to the point that by day 4 he had to have a PICC line put in. I felt so bad, but that Saturday he had to have a PICC line. Anyway, they said that so above 70, they would drop the milliliter down on the sugar drip. If it was 70 even, or between 65 and 70, I think that they said. They wouldn't change it, it would stay the same, and if it was below 65, they would bump it back up. So there was a few times it was below 65, so they had to bump back up, but at most of the time, it stayed at or above, and so he was either staying at the same or dropping milliliters. But he had to be down to no milliliters and then 24 hours on his own before he was allowed to come home. So it really sucked, because by the time I got released on Saturday, and he was still in the hospital. That was the only reason why he was there to start with, and we are upset with the doctor, the pediatrician that he had, because of what I'm getting ready to tell you. I left on Saturday, and me and Brayden decided to go do one last date night. Before he came home, we went to saw a movie. That's all we did. And then right after the movie, we were right down the road, like a mile or two down the road from the hospital, so we decided to go check on him. Because there's only during shift changes was the only time that parents aren't allowed in the rooms. Any other time you can come and go as you please to go see your kids. Before we went to the movies, the doctor had called to tell me that my son had been showing signs of withdrawal and wanted to know what medicine I was taking. And I told them I wasn't taking anything. I took Zofran, which they said that shouldn't have caused a withdrawal, and I took Tylenol, which they said shouldn't have caused it either. So they didn't know why he was showing signs of withdrawal. And let me just tell you, we eventually found out the signs he was showing withdrawal was rooting. Newborn babies root. He was sneezing. I'm pretty sure people sneeze. And he was just getting really fussy. He's a newborn. We did not like that doctor. Because as soon as he got another doctor, he was being released. Anyway. So they had to keep doing NAF or NAS or something, whatever, tests on him. And if he got a certain score, they had to give him they would have to give him morphine. Well, the doctor told me, she had, that night, that doctor said she hadn't seen any of the stuff they were talking about. She doesn't know what they're talking about. He wasn't showing any signs of withdrawal for them. And then the next day, we went in, but they told us that they would call us if they had to administer the morphine before they did it. And the next day, we went in, and that nurse mentioned if we had known they had to give him morphine. They never told us. So we were very upset that she had given them morphine, even though we were told they wouldn't until they called us. So we were upset about that. But like I said, by Monday, he wasn't being tested for it anymore. He wasn't showing signs for it. That doctor was just like, no, stop testing. Sunday night, Monday morning, whatever, he had gotten taken off the drip and had to go 24 hours by himself with a good blood sugar. And he did. Tuesday, he was a week old, he was finally able to come home. So that was the only reason why he was in the hospital. Nothing else was wrong. He just needed to keep his blood sugar up, which that pediatrician we didn't like tried to accuse me of saying that even though my test said I didn't, I must have had gestational diabetes. That's the only reason why he was so big and had low blood sugar, because he was 9 pounds 3 ounces. But he was also overdue. He was 3 days overdue, although the hospital tried to say that he was a week and 3 days overdue. The nurses I talked to and a lot of people was like, just some babies need a kickstart to start their blood sugar. It's a whole new world to them. They're not attached to mommy anymore. Things are changing. But whatever. Once he left the hospital, he has no more issues with blood sugar that we are aware of. They don't test him for it, but he doesn't show any signs. He's a happy, healthy baby. He's growing just fine. He was a happy, healthy little boy, just a big boy, and he came into the world really fast, and it's been going fast ever since now he's 1, and I can't believe it happened so quick.